Voices drift on winds untamed, words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no bounds are found. Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.
Welcome to Meta Mysteries, where you don't know what you don't know. My name is Jonathan, and today it's just going to be me. I am just getting home from Bohemian Grove. We went out there and hung out with Nephilim Death Squad and Tinfoil Hat, and, well, just Sam Tripoli from Tinfoil Hat, Owen Benjamin, and all of the greats, dude. I mean, we got to hang out with Donut, if you've listened to him on The Cult. So many other amazing people to finally meet for the first time in person. So that was really cool. We had a great experience. And of course, if you've been listening to the show, you know the last time I went into the etheric realm, it was at last Bohemian Grove, and I decided to keep up that tradition. Now, it wasn't the traditional full-on blast-off, but me and a couple of the listeners of the show, we decided to have a great time, and we saw some wild things. That's all I'm going to say about that. Maybe I'll go a little bit more depth whenever I get Sean back on, but I kind of want him to hear it. I haven't talked to him yet, so next episode, which will be Wonder Wiz Day. So, we'll go into a little bit deeper. That way I'll be able to share it with all of you who are joining us on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/metamysteries. That link is down in the show notes. If you sign up over there on Meta Mysteries, then you'll be able to join us every Wednesday night for Wonder Wiz Day if you sign up for the Wonder Wiz Day tier or higher. If you're not interested in that, we also have a lower tier that gives you everything else. So you like listening to the shows completely commercial free, you like watching the video, and you'll also be able to slide into our DMs, and we answer every single message on there. It's a lot easier to keep up with the messages on Patreon than it is on all the other platforms. So yeah, we would love your support in that way. We appreciate that for all of the one that's already doing it. So now let's get to the show, because this show is something that I've been thinking about doing for a little while, and we've kind of, glazed over it here and there, talking about the higher self and stuff like that, but mainly from like a past life regression standpoint, Dolores Cannon, that kind of stuff. This is actually going to go into the ancient ways in which the ancients spoke to the higher self. Now, some people would say, oh, that's God, or that's so-and-so. Name your deity or creator or the universe or whatever, but the ancients, they knew what they were doing. And it's always been my opinion that we've evolved technologically, but not in almost any other way. And I think that that's really what our purpose is on the show, is just trying to get back in touch with our spiritual self, our higher self, our connection to source, our connection to the universe, our connection to just that spiritual connection. And, however you like to go about doing that, it's very vital, because you see a lot of people nowadays very depressed, very sad, very anxious, unfulfilled. Well, why is that? Because that connection to that higher realm, that source, even the higher realm within you, it seems like it's not even there sometimes. Maybe it's severed. I don't think it's ever actually severed. It's just, our awareness of it seems to wither away the more we get involved in this material realm of just believing that this entire reality is all physical and there's nothing else. And so, yeah, if you're somebody, maybe you have everything. Maybe you have a nice car. Maybe you have a nice house. Maybe you have awesome kids and an awesome spouse and everything. You could have it all and still be sad and disappointed and upset and anxious and depressed and all those things. Maybe that's because you haven't been talking to your higher self lately. What would your higher self say? That's what we're going to get into today a little bit. So, yeah, we're going to start it off right here. I do want to say, though, probably not going to be doing a meditation tonight, just because it's late. I didn't get home from Florida until about 15 minutes ago. And yeah, it's 15 minutes to midnight. It's a late one, but that's okay. I love doing this show. So we're going to have a good episode right here. So we're going to call this the many faces of the higher self. So, and maybe it's your higher self, maybe it's your future self, maybe it's the divine you, whatever that is in you. So this is the part of you that's always watching, always knowing, and always trying to guide yourself into alignment. All right. But yeah, every mystical tradition talks about this. And it ain't fiction. It's the real you, without the trauma, without the fear, without the ego. So we're going to break it down. All right. So the first concept that we're going to get into is ancient concepts of the higher self across cultures. So throughout ancient civilizations, the idea of the higher self was central to the spiritual life. In ancient Egypt, the soul was split into multiple aspects: the Ka, which is your vital essence, the Ba, and this is Ka, and then Ba is Ba. Ba is your personality that lives on after death. Interesting that they would call it that. And the Ak, which is your radiant divine self that merges with the stars. Ak is A-K-H. I could be saying that wrong. The Egyptians believed that by living in accordance with Ma'at, which is cosmic balance, your Ba, which is your personality that lives on after death, would successfully reunite with the Ka, which is your vital essence, in the afterlife to become your true eternal form. So it's not to say that your ego is going to meet your higher self or your soul or your spirit or anything like that. Your ego is completely wiped away because there's no need for it whenever you go on. Your ego it's essentially your programming for this realm, right? So like your ego might say, man, I got to go work out. I got to get these muscles on. I got to lose some fat, or I got to make sure I'm funny, or I got to make sure whatever, all earthly things. You don't even need that anymore. But that's not who you are. That's just a facet of you, of the character, the avatar that you've made this go around. So yeah, your Ba would successfully reunite with the Ka in the afterlife to become your true eternal form. In Hinduism, the Atman represents the higher self, the divine essence within each being that is ultimately one with Brahman, the universal soul. So that's kind of like your higher self essentially merging back with the universal soul. Some might call that the source, or God. So sounds about right. See, Hinduism, Buddhism, they all kind of rhyme, dude. Christianity, all of them a little bit. So the journey of the yogi is about peeling back the illusion of Maya. The Maya, I always talk about it. It's this matrix-like dream world that we live in, to realize that the Atman was always the truth beyond or beneath the noise. When Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am the self seated in the heart of all beings, he's not talking about a God out there. He's pointing to your truest identity. The Greeks weren't shy about this either. Plato taught that every soul has a daemon, not demon necessarily, a daemon, a divine guide or essence that acts like a whispering genius trying to keep us aligned with our sacred mission. Socrates even credited his daemon with stopping him from making mistakes. And in Orphic mystery schools, the idea was to awaken your true double. I like that. That's pretty cool. Your true double, a spark of divinity trapped in a prison of flesh waiting to remember. It's all your higher self. That's essentially what this is talking about. So yeah, your daemon. Let's go a little bit more into the daemon, the holy guardian angel, and the divine inner guides. Now, I know a lot of people, whenever they hear daemon, they think demon. It's not like that. I think that that's probably where the word demon is pulled from. But that's not necessarily the same thing. And to be honest, if you look into demons, that's not exactly what most people think it is either. It's just meant to scare people, I think, for the most part. But anyhow, it says, fast forward to the Western occult traditions, and we start to see the evolution of this higher self into something more magical, almost personified. In Hermeticism and ceremonial magic, the higher self was often referred to as the holy guardian angel. The higher self is the holy guardian angel. That was in, that was in, where was that? Hermeticism and ceremonial magic. Far from being a religious angel with wings, the holy guardian angel was considered your perfected self on a higher vibrational plane. Your divine, this is what Dolores Cannon called it too, your divine oversoul, charged with guiding your evolution. So she would always talk about the higher self or your subconscious mind, but then she eventually ended up taking those words. She didn't feel like they were necessarily as correct as what she was aiming for. And so she came up with the oversoul. And I don't know if she came up with that or maybe she stumbled across that from ancient cultures or whatever, but sounds about right. The oversoul. So yeah, essentially this is talking about how your future self or your highest self, your oversoul is essentially the one guiding you on this journey, which that sounds kind of crazy if you think about it, because like, how could my highest self be guiding me, but I'm right here, you know? But there's many levels to this shit, as we know. The magician, Aleister Crowley, say what you want about him. We're not going to dive into the conspiracy realm. It's still interesting. He's a magician, a piece of shit magician, don't get me wrong, but a magician nonetheless. The magician Aleister Crowley said that the only true purpose of magic was, in quotes, the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. Wow. In his Liber Samek ritual, the practitioner performs a dramatic invocation to contact this divine being, not to control it, but to merge with it. This wasn't a possession. It was a return, a reunion with what you were before you forgot. Wow. I didn't know Crowley was doing that. I mean, he was doing some other pretty raunchy stuff that you probably shouldn't look into. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. It's not something that you would necessarily do ever, to be honest with you. He was not the best kind of guy, but this part is very interesting. He wanted to merge himself with the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, which is the highest self, according to this. So in Christian mysticism, the idea shows up as the inner Christ, not Jesus as a man, but Christ as a cosmic consciousness that each of us carries. The Gnostics took it even further. They believed your true self was a divine fragment of the pleroma, trapped in the material world by archons. Salvation didn't come from worship, it came from gnosis, direct knowing of your own divinity. That's ultimately all gnosis is right there. It's just ultimate awareness of, you know, everything spiritual, because that's who we are, you know, at the absolute core. That's who we are. That's what we are. We just totally forgot because here we are in this illusion world. I don't know how we got here. I mean, I wish I could answer that, but I mean, some people suggest that, you know, we chose to come here, and I think it kind of makes sense. I don't know. It's not that bad here. You know, once you get the hang of it, once you start to develop your awareness and try and merge back into your higher self, as this is suggesting, I feel like it's really up to you. You know, life is what you make it, as they say. Joe Dirt right there. Okay, so psychedelic, we're going to move on to the next point here. So psychedelic and shamanic journeys revealing your truest self. So shamans across the globe have long known that the spirit world holds mirrors, and those mirrors often reflect you in the purest form. In ayahuasca ceremonies, countless seekers report meeting glowing angelic versions of themselves, beings made of light who offer comfort, insight, and unshakable love. These beings rarely introduce themselves as aliens or gods. They often say, "I am you. I have always been you." Not gonna lie, that sounds like the coolest possible possibility to meet you. And we've talked to people who have had those kind of experiences where you meet the older, not necessarily older, but maybe just the wiser version of you. Maybe that means you're older or whatever, but man, to meet the you that you ultimately, become, that sounds so sick. Because I mean, like everybody else out there, like I'm a completely different person than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago for sure. But for 5 years, completely different. I started my journey probably 5-6 years ago, something like that. But yeah, leaps and bounds come, from where I was to where I am. And there's still a long way to go, as with everybody else. So in the words of the late Terrence McKenna, RIP, this is his quote: "What you discover in these hyperspatial dimensions is that the true mystery is inside of you." End quote. During deep DMT or psilocybin journeys, many people experience what's called ego death, where their small self melts away, and what's left is the infinite cosmic self that's been watching patiently from the wings. This self doesn't speak in words, it transmits knowing. Dreamwalkers, vision questers, and mystics alike speak of meeting a future version of themselves, a radiant, calm being that seems to exist outside of time. Whether through fasting in the desert, sweating in a lodge, or breathing deep under the stars, these practices remove the veil between the ego and the eternal. And when the veil lifts, you come face to face with the truth. You are the one that you've been waiting for. This is something we always try to say. Only you can save you. It makes the most sense. Stop waiting on somebody else. What happens if you just decided to take the reins of that bad boy and said, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. It's time for me to stop waiting. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that, to be honest with you, I think that kind of sentiment has been buried for a long time, because they know, whoever they are. I mean, the propagandists, the whatever, the people that don't want you knowing this kind of stuff. They want you praying to something outside of you. This is the secret, in my opinion. Like the ultimate undying secret is that you live on for eternity, and they have almost like fooled you into believing that you're not that. And this is the whole thing. Like, we talk about gnosis and magic and witchy things and spiritual things and everything. It all leads back to you, because this is something that opens up inside of you. It's like you're just a little flower bud. You haven't opened yet. You know what I mean? And they're basically trying to block out your sun. They're trying to dry you up, not give you any rain. They said dirt. Psh, you don't need dirt. They're trying to take it all away. But it's up to you to spark that. So you become that light that inevitably gives every single nutritious thing that little flower bud of you needs to open all the way up. I mean, that might be a little lame of an example, but it was just the first thing on my mind. So yeah, now we're going to get to meeting future you. Let's go. So when people think about time travel, they imagine wormholes, DeLoreans, or quantum tech. But what if time travel has nothing to do with machines and everything to do with the consciousness? That's what we're here for, baby. Right there. What if there's a version of you already existing in the future, walking the path you're meant to walk and waiting for you to catch up? This segment is about how to meet that version of yourself, talk to them, and even become them. Oh, this is going to be a fun ride. So the future self meditation. All right, this is going to be very interesting. So we're going to get into scripting, dialogue, and integration. These are all practices that you're going to be able to learn and apply to your life if you want to regularly try and stay in contact with your higher self, your oversoul. Yeah, all that fun jazz. So one of the most accessible and powerful ways to contact your future self is through intentional meditation and scripting. It starts with visualization, but goes far deeper than just imagine success. You begin by entering a calm, centered state, then imagine yourself 5, 10, maybe even 20 years in the future. Not just older, but wiser, calmer, healed, and fulfilled. This version of you has already solved the problems that you're facing. They've already made the moves that you're still afraid to make. When you visualize this future self, you sit across from them. Literally imagine a golden version of you in front of you, same eyes, but ancient in wisdom. You ask them questions like, what do I need to let go of? What do you wish I'd stop doubting? What was the turning point in your journey? You might hear answers in your own voice, or feel impressions, or even get emotional responses. Don't overthink it. Just listen. The more you do this, the clearer their voice becomes. But it's not just about meeting them. It's about integrating their energy. After each meditation, write down their words. Journal as if they're writing to you. This builds a bridge between timelines. Over time, the frequency gap between now you and future you begins to collapse. You start making choices that feel more aligned, more fearless, more inevitable, because you're not guessing anymore, you're remembering. This is what's so powerful about past life regressions too. And I'm immediately reminded of the past life regression that we gave to the white boy wizard. This is something that he was able to see for himself, because not everybody goes back to a past life. Sometimes maybe you get a parallel life, maybe you get a life in the future or something like that. He ended up getting somewhat of a parallel, and I would almost guess to say that it was this damn life, which was very interesting, because all the things that he was experiencing in his past life was everything that he'd already experienced. And that doesn't happen very often, but whenever it does, it's interesting to try and work with. Just from my own standpoint, I have to try and get a little creative with it. But it is interesting because, he was able to see every part of his life up until now, and was able to see how it eventually played out. Now, we didn't take him through the death. Of course, I don't want him to know how he's going to die. Nobody needs that. Nobody, I don't care who you are. You don't need to know how you die. It's supposed to be a surprise. But yeah, he was able to see, everything that he inevitably, like he wanted to see. And whether that was something that already happened, or maybe it was wishful thinking or whatever, he was able to see it from his higher self perspective. And now he knows what he needs to do because he's already seen it play out. And that's what's so fascinating about it. And so you don't need a past life regression to be able to do that. You can do a meditation on your own. You can do even like a YouTube past life regression. I mean, doesn't even have to be anything specific. It's just about getting in contact with your higher self. So yeah, that was something that was actually beautiful to see with the white boy wizard. I still remember, I don't remember all the past life regressions, but that one is definitely going to stick with me because it was meaningful, and, I was happy that we were able to do that for him. So now, all right, so that's the future self meditation. That is a great idea. I need to work on that one myself. That just sounds so sick. Next one, another thing that you can do is timeline jumping and the quantum field. Right. We've gone over a little bit of this before in the past, but so timeline jumping is a practice rooted in the idea that all versions of you already exist. There isn't one static future. You've got infinite yous. If Sean was on here, I'd be like youths from my cousin Vinny. But anyway, you got infinite yous walking parallel paths in the quantum field. Every time you make a choice, you shift which you're aligning with. So when you connect with your future self, you're not creating a new path. You're tuning into a frequency that where that version is already real. And I know that this is hard for a lot of people to really get their mind around, but I used to think, man, I don't know about that. It doesn't matter if that is actually real. This is the real secret. It doesn't even matter if that's actually what's going on. It's your mind that you have to convince. So this is something that I always say to anybody that has difficulty meditating or whatever, is just to repeat this one mantra in your mind. I am not the body. I am not even the mind. Whenever you're in meditation, you're like, okay, yeah, of course I'm not the body. I already know that, but damn, I'm not even the mind. Boom, you're going to go into overdrive because now you're not aligning yourself with just your thoughts of your mind. That's not you. That's more ego, right? That's not who ultimately you are. It's just a tool that, you're using, like you use your eyes, like you use all your other senses, right? So yeah, once you kind of get yourself into that mental place where you can convince your mind that you've literally jumped into another reality, it looks very similar to this, but this reality, everything moving forward is going to go exactly how you need it to go. There's going to be little bumps and bruises along the way because you have to constantly remind yourself and you have to constantly remain in that level of awareness. You got to make sure that you're remembering that you've shifted. You're no longer in that other timeline anymore. You're walking the path of the character that you ultimately need to be, who you want to be, in order to get to where you want to go. If you go back and you keep on making the same old mistakes, you keep on doing the same old thing that ultimately led your life into the direction to where you felt like you had to do a quantum shift, right? Then, of course, you're probably just going to go back. So this is accountability is probably the best word for that. So yeah, this is where it actually does get wild. So quantum physics supports this idea through the many worlds interpretation, which we've talked about before. Every potential future is real, just vibrating at a different frequency. And the key to jumping timelines is emotion plus belief plus action. You need all three of them. You feel the emotion of already being that version. You believe it's real. That's a huge one. You have to. It's a tool. Belief is a tool. It should never be a weapon. Like some people like to use it as a weapon. Use it as a tool. Your mind needs to believe it. You know it. Your mind needs to believe it. You have to find a way to convince your mind that it is real, and then you act accordingly. Even the smallest decisions can lock you onto a new timeline. One conversation, one choice, one affirmation spoken with conviction. Timeline jumping isn't just a mental game. It's a ritual. You can use sigils, meditative music, or even mirrors to set the tone. Before sleep is one of the best times when the conscious mind loosens its grip. Whisper to yourself, probably as you're laying down and you're falling into that deeper trance right before sleep. We always talk about the theta state of mind. Right whenever you're getting ready to fall asleep, you just you say this in your own mind. You say, I am aligning with my timeline. I am aligning with the timeline of my highest self. So then you would fall asleep with that vibration. And when you wake up, you live like it's already true. This isn't a delusion. It's an energetic commitment. Can I get an amen? Yeah, that's good stuff. So now we're going to get to the higher self as a fractal intelligence from a future parallel. All right. So the higher self isn't just you, but better. It's a fractal node of your own consciousness existing outside of linear time. It's not ahead of you. It's beyond you, observing all versions of your life simultaneously. Some mystics describe the higher self like a sun, and each lifetime that you live is just one beam of light shining from it. Your future self, the one that you're trying to meet, is simply one ray in a sea of possibilities, shining a little brighter because it's more in alignment. When you tap into the higher self, you're connecting to that central light, the source you. And from that vantage point, all of your problems, doubts, and struggles are just part of the unfolding artwork. This perspective brings massive healing. You begin to see how all the heartbreak, confusion, and even chaos were perfectly designed to sculpt the diamond that you're becoming. You stop resisting the pain and start embracing the pattern. This is the true beauty of meeting your future self. Not just to get advice or inspiration, but to remember who you've always been. That's that gnosis right there. That's really it. That's gnosis in a nutshell. To remember who you've always been. That version of you isn't out of reach. It's already here, whispering through your intuition, nudging you through synchronicities, and waiting patiently behind the veil. When you finally align with it, reality starts bending to your will. Not because you're manifesting harder, but because you become the version of you that was always meant to be. And the crazy thing is that this is not just some fantasy. It's actually spiritual physics. You're not chasing some perfect version of you. You're tuning into the you that already exists in divine alignment. The more you visit that version, the more you become that version. And soon people will start asking you, how did you change so much? And all you got to say is, I finally met myself. Let's go. That's a little poetic. I like it. So, all right, there are ritual technologies to contacting the inner guide. That's the next part we're going to get into now. So now that we've opened the door to the future selves and started jumping timelines, it's time to get ritualistic. You know we love that over here. And we're going to be talking about ancient technologies, spiritual tools used for centuries to contact divine intelligence. But there is a twist. Most of these rituals don't summon some outside spirit or deity. They help you reach the voice of your own higher self. Whether it's through mirror scrying, dreams, or sacred plant medicines, these practices are all about tuning your inner radio to receive the broadcast from the real you. Now, of course, you can look at this from a Neoplatonic kind of idea. You can look at it from a pantheistic kind of idea, a panentheistic kind of idea. I don't even think that it's limited to any of these. I think that probably through any spiritual practice, we could all align with knowing that there is a version of ourselves that's already done it. You know, it's just like we always talk about it, but just like in The Matrix, when Neo is talking to the Oracle and he's like, well, why did I come here? Why am I here right now? And, what do I got to do? And she goes, it's not about what you got to do. It's about what you're here to remember. And so you're just remembering why you made the decisions that you made. And that's kind of just like playing out. Everything already happened, right? So I love that part. So, all right, we're going to get to, psychomantium. How about that as a word? So this is going to be Black Mirror scrying to speak with the self. All right, Black Mirror. All right, I like it. So one of the most mysterious and powerful tools for contacting the self is called psychomantium or Black Mirror. So the Greeks originally used this method in necromantic temples known as oracles of the dead, where they'd stare into polished obsidian or still water to receive visions. But modern mystics have found that instead of channeling spirits of the dead, you can actually meet your future self in the mirror like a portal through time. The process is simple but potent. You sit in a dark room with only a candle behind you, placed low so it doesn't reflect in the mirror. Then you gaze, not at your reflection, but into the depth of the mirror, letting your gaze soften and your mind quiet. So after several minutes, your reflection often starts to change, morph, or even disappear. This is something that Sean talked about whenever he was doing it. This is where it gets interesting. So many people report seeing an older version of themselves step forward, or a glowing being with eyes, their energy, and their soul signature. With their eyes, their energy, and their soul signature. So what's important is how it feels. If you get chills, emotional waves, or sudden clarity, don't dismiss it. That's your inner guide signaling through the veil. It's common to receive these telepathic impressions or sudden downloads during or after the practice. And the mirror acts as both a literal and symbolic gateway, reminding you that all perception is reflection. You're not summoning something external. You're witnessing the divine self staring right back at you. Woo! Yeah. See, this, I actually really like this a lot. We're going to be doing a little bit of this, definitely in the future. Just reminds me of optimistic banks. I swear, all these like everybody is you, everything is you, I just dig that. And it's not necessarily from a selfish standpoint. It's just, I don't know. For me, it just makes more sense. I don't know. I'm sure some people out there that probably don't feel that same way, but I don't know. There's just something about it that it vibes, So now we're going to get over to lucid dreaming and dream temples from Egyptian and Tibetan lore. So another ancient technique for contacting the higher self is dream work. So specifically lucid dreaming and intentional dream temples. The Egyptians were masters of this. They used sacred chambers, often underground or inside pyramids, where initiates would sleep after specific rituals, hoping to meet their divine self or receive visions. This was known as incubation, not sleep for rest, but sleep for revelation. That's awesome. I love it. So Tibetan dream yoga takes this to another level. So practitioners train themselves to become conscious inside the dream so that they can navigate the dream world with intention. When lucid, the dreamer can call out to their higher self, visualize their future self, or even enter symbolic temples filled with guidance. Wow, that is so sick. Many describe having entire conversations with glowing versions of themselves, receiving wisdom, healing, and even prophetic insights. You don't need a pyramid to do this. Before bed, set the intention. Tonight, you say this in your mind, tonight I will meet my higher self in the dream. So you would keep a notebook nearby and be ready to record anything that feels symbolic. So over time, your dreams will shift. You may see a figure that keeps showing up. That's your higher self manifesting through dream archetypes. The more attention you give it, the more clearly it speaks. Dreams aren't random. They're the hidden language of the soul. This actually makes so much more sense as far as the dream world to me. I think that really checks out. Then, of course, you have entheogens, psychedelics, as they like to call them. So entheogens and sacred ceremony as portals to divine identity. Yeah, we just experienced a lot of that. Me and Steph. Steph. My God, did we have an awesome night. It was so sick. We'll talk a little bit about it on Wonder Wednesday. It was so awesome. One for the books for sure. But so now we're going to enter the deep end with entheogens, plant medicines that dissolve the illusion of separation and launch you directly into communion with the self. Substances like psilocybin mushrooms, DMT, ayahuasca, and mescaline have been used for thousands of years not to escape reality, but to reveal it. The veil gets torn away, and what's left is the truth, pure, undeniable, cosmic level you. In sacred settings, especially when guided with intention, these medicines often lead to contact with glowing, loving, intelligent beings. But ask anyone who's gone deep enough, and they'll tell you the most powerful being that they met was themselves. Not the ego self, but the self with a capital S. Many report hearing phrases like, "You are always loved," or "This is who you really are," echoing through their consciousness with crystal clarity. The key here is setting and integration. So if you enter the ceremony with the intention to meet your higher self and treat it with reverence, the experience can be life-changing. But the work doesn't end when the trip does. Integration is everything. So journal, reflect, change. That version of you isn't just a trip vision. It's not just a trip vision. It's a calling card from your destiny. The plant only showed you what's already inside of you. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. Not a lot of people really want to go that deep in the rabbit hole. You don't need psychedelics to be able to find that out. It makes it glaringly obvious. So I understand why a lot of people are dipping their feet into that a lot nowadays, and I personally love it. But you don't need it. You can get hypnotized to a past life regression. You can do a deep meditation. You can go on a several day kind of fast, and the world is a completely different place. It's amazing. Then there's many of other different ways to be able to get to the inner core you. I'm just saying this is one that's it's right in your face. So anyway, ritual isn't about superstition. It's about permission. You give yourself permission to quiet the noise, open the channel, and finally hear the voice that's been guiding you all along. Whether it's through mirrors, dreams, or sacred plants, the message is always the same. You already know, you've always known, and now it's time to remember. Lovely. So shadow work and self-alchemy. All right, we've talked about meeting the higher self, but here's the part that nobody really wants to do, the shadow work. Because you can't embody your divine self if you're still haunted by the wounds, the patterns, and the lies of your ego. The truth is, before you can wear the crown, you have to walk through your own underworld. That's cool. This segment is about alchemy. Not just the mystical idea of turning lead into gold, but turning your trauma into wisdom and your darkness into light. So we're going to go with the ego versus the self. Integration, not destruction. This is where shadow work, it's nobody wants to do it. It's scary. It's the unknown. And there's going to be some amazing quotes here that we're going to get by Carl Jung and a few others. So one of the biggest misconceptions in spirituality is that the ego is the enemy. People try to kill the ego, silence it, escape it. But that's not how this works. The ego is like your vehicle. It helps you function in this 3D world. But the problem is most people are driving blindfolded, completely controlled by their ego's fears, stories, and identity loops. The goal isn't to destroy the ego, it's to train it to serve the self. Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of people that, they'll have an ego death. I personally went through an ego death. I've talked about it plenty of times before. It's not that once your ego dies, you're just always your higher self all the time. Very unlikely. I mean, I can say just from my own experience, it's not how it works. But it's almost like a reset. You're hitting the reset button. And then you got to build the ego back up a little bit again. But it's important whenever you're trying to build that ego back up that you don't fall into the same old shit that you were doing before. So that's whenever you really want to sync it a little bit more to your higher self, or maybe some goals that you have. Maybe you're trying to become a little bit more attached to this spiritual way of living in a sense. Maybe you want your ego to be on the lookout for synchronicities, whatever the case may be. But you're still going to have an ego, unfortunately. I mean, not even unfortunately. Like, not all egos are bad. It's just that, you don't want to be selfish. That's the biggest thing that a lot of people have a hard time shaking off, is just that selfish part of you. Because the selfishness gets a lot of people in trouble. So anyway, y'all know that. That ain't nothing new. So the all right, yeah. So the goal isn't to destroy the ego; it's to train it to serve the self. The higher self doesn't hate your ego; it understands it. It knows why you built those walls, why you created that persona, why you carry that armor. But it also knows that none of that defines you. True alchemy happens when you bring the ego and the self into relationship. You become the observer of your mind, the master of your reactions, and the author of your identity, not its slave. It's a big one. So in every mystical path, whether it's Gnostic, Buddhist, or Hermetic, you'll find the same teaching. The ego is the false self, the mask, the illusion. But instead of running from it, the mystic turns and faces it. When you do that, something miraculous happens. You realize your ego isn't a curse. It's the raw material for transformation, and that's where magic begins. All right, now we're going to get to another facet of this, which is facing your subconscious wounds to clear the channel. So your shadow isn't just your dark side. It's everything about you that's been exiled, suppressed, or denied. Childhood wounds, unmet needs, shame, anger, guilt, and even your deepest desires. As long as you ignore your shadow, it runs the show from behind the curtain. That's the big secret right there. That's why shadow work is so critical for contacting your higher self, because the channel can't come through clearly if it's full of static. Doing this work isn't pretty. It involves journaling your ugliest truths, tracking down your emotional triggers, and asking questions like, where did I learn to feel unworthy? What am I still angry about? Whose love did I crave the most, and who did I have to become to get it? You might cry, you might scream, you might want to quit, but on the other side of that is the emotional purge, which brings clarity. So shadow work is sacred because it's honest, and your higher self requires honesty. You can't wear the mask and expect to walk the spiritual path. That radiant future you, that divine healed version of you, they've already done this work. They've made peace with the pain, forgiven the past, and brought every wounded piece home. They didn't skip steps, and neither can you. Now we're going to get a little bit into Jungian culture, identity. Carl Jung's shadow, inner child, and mystical union. So psychologist and mystic Carl Jung said it best. This is his quote. "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's one of the best quotes of all time. So, I mean, that is solid. Jung saw the shadow not as something evil, but as a container for the parts of the psyche that we reject. And the key to healing was integration, bringing light into the shadow and the shadow into the light. That's the essence of spiritual alchemy. Jung also emphasized the inner child, the part of us that's frozen in time, stuck in the emotional chaos, in the emotional echoes, rather, of early wounds. The higher self can't fully anchor into a body where the inner child is still afraid, still hiding, still unloved. Healing this part of yourself isn't just psychological, it's ritualistic. You hold space for that child in meditation. You let them speak. You tell them they're safe now. This act alone can create powerful and energetic shifts. And here's the deeper mystical layer. Jung believed that the union of opposites. He called it the conjunctio, which was the highest form of inner work. The divine union of masculine and feminine, light and dark, ego and self. This is where we stop compartmentalizing our being and become whole. When that happens, the higher self doesn't just visit you, it moves in. It becomes the default setting. That's when the real power begins to flow. So shadow work isn't a detour, it's the path. The pain that you've been avoiding, that's the doorway. The part of you that feels broken, that's where the gold is buried. You can't meet your divine self while running from your human self. But when you face it, and you really face it, that's when the soul steps forward and says, "Welcome back." Yeah. All right, so now we're going to get to becoming the self. So far, we've opened the portal, we've made contact, we cleaned out the vessel, but here's the thing. Meeting your higher self isn't the goal. That's just the beginning. The real mission is becoming it, merging with it, living as it. This isn't about waiting for some spiritual upgrade to drop from the heavens. It's about activating it from within. So this final part that we're going to talk about is the full embodiment of your divine identity, the moment where remembering turns into radiating. So in Hermeticism and alchemical texts, the ultimate goal is referred to as the great work. People often misinterpret this as turning lead into gold, but esoterically, the lead is your ego, your trauma, and your density, and the gold, that's the purified self. Enlightened, embodied, awake. The great work is the inner marriage of your lower nature with your divine origin, a sacred union that creates a third transformed being. The great work isn't a weekend retreat. It's a lifetime process. It involves discipline, devotion, and surrender. And you'll know when you're on the path because synchronicities become rapid fire. Serendipity aligns with intention. People and places appear exactly when you need them. You're no longer pushing reality, you're dancing with it. The friction starts to fade because your inner world is harmonizing with the outer one. And here's the wild part. Once you've merged with your higher self, you don't lose your identity. You finally embody it, not the egoic mask, but the soul behind the mask. You become the one who walks in alignment, speaks in truth, and sees through illusion. That's the real gold. That's the philosopher's stone that they talk about right there. Yes, God, I love this stuff. It's so good. We're going to get into Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, and the I am frequency. This is whenever you start really starting to embody it. After you've met your higher self, you've kind of embodied the higher self, you live with the higher self every day. Now it's just fine tuning it, you know. So every major mystical tradition hints at this final transformation. In esoteric Christianity, it's called Christ consciousness, not worshiping Jesus, but becoming what he became. a state of pure love, divine clarity, and service to the world. In Buddhism, it's Buddha nature, the awakened awareness already present within you. These teachings weren't about idols, they were invitations. The name of God given in the Bible is I am. That's one of the deepest mystical truths that you can speak. Not I will be or I was, but I am. Present, eternal, and sovereign. Every time you say I am, followed by a belief, you are programming your reality. That's why affirmations are more than just positive thinking. They're declarations of your inner divinity. So say this: I am light. I am divine. I am already who I came here to be. So when you live from this space, your energy changes. People can feel it. You walk differently, speak differently, vibrate differently, not because you're pretending, but because you're no longer forgetting. You've tuned into the divine radio station that was always broadcasting, and now you're singing the same song. So real world signs that you're embodying your higher self. Here we go. So how do you know that it's working? How do you know you're not just imagining this whole spiritual glow up? Here are some of the real world signs that, so the first one is you no longer chase things that aren't aligned. You attract them naturally. Your old triggers start to lose their grip. You feel deep peace even when chaos is swirling. You're more loving, more patient, but also more decisive. Because the self doesn't second guess, it knows. You begin to speak with power, but not the kind that dominates, the kind that liberates. People start coming to you for advice, for healing, insight, not because you have all the answers, but because your presence transmits something. That presence is the higher self moving through your body like light through a crystal. And maybe the most important sign is that you no longer feel the need to become someone else. You stop trying to quote unquote get there because you realize you're already there. The moment you drop into that awareness, the self steps forward and says, "Finally, you remembered." That's what it's just waiting on you. It's waiting on you. And the thing is that you already know that. Like whenever this is the thing too. What's funny is, and this is just from like past life regressions that I give people. Whenever I give somebody a past life regression and the higher self is speaking to them after the past life, they're like, "Oh, that's that? That's the voice? That's the thing that I've been listening to that I always just neglect and I don't listen to?" Because a lot of people just assume that that's like, "Oh, that's what my dad would say, or that's what my mom would say, or that's who raised me would say, or that's Jesus judging me, or that's somebody judging you." And that's oftentimes what people don't even know. Whenever people are rebelling, most of the time they're rebelling against that inner voice inside of them. This is something that I had to find out for the hard way, because I was like, wait a second. Who am I rebelling against? I'm a grown man. Like, I don't have parents that are telling me what to do. I don't have a job that's telling me what to do. Like, what am I rebelling against myself? Yeah, that's kind of, it's a crazy little conundrum there, actually. So yeah, stop rebelling against yourself and remember that voice inside of you is trying to guide you, because it's the version of you that's already done all this and figured out the right way of how to do it. So look at your higher self as your innermost guide, the guide that is so personal that it not only knows you, it is you. It's the more evolved version of you, and it's trying to teach you in this moment where you haven't gotten it all figured out yet, that, hey, just listen, just be quiet every so often and just ask the higher self. You can call it whatever you want. Maybe you want to name it something else. Maybe you want to call it God. Maybe you want to call it Jesus. Maybe you want to call it Marv. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't mind a name. Names are just human constructs anyway, right? So now we're going to get to, so becoming your higher self isn't about striving. It's about shedding. It's about clearing away the noise, the lies, the fear, until all that's left is the truth. You are divine, you are eternal, and you are already whole. All that's left now is to live from that truth every single day. So All right, now that we've gone deep into the theory, the mysticism, and the transformation, it's time to do the damn thing. This final part is hands-on. So you want to get a little ritualistic, this is where we're going to go if you want to, put a lot of this stuff into actual practice. So whether you're listening in your car, you're laying in your bed, or you're deep in the woods underneath the stars, these are practical spiritual tools to help you call in your higher self right meow. So these aren't for entertainment, they're for initiation. So, and some of, I don't think that you can do all of these while driving, maybe one of them, but we'll see. And you can always just go into your mind and speak to your higher self. You can literally be doing anything. That's probably what we do most of the time when we're sleeping anyway. Just, we forget, So the first one we talked about a little bit earlier is the Black Mirror ritual, which is the gateway to the self. So you don't need a sacred temple or a shamanic priesthood to make contact. All you need is a mirror, a dark space, and your own intention. So there's four directions here, or 4 instructions that we're going to go over. So you're going to find a black mirror. Obsidian is ideal, but a regular mirror works. It's going to be dark anyway. It's going to seem black. So a regular mirror, because you're going to have the lights off. You're literally you can dim the lights or turn them all the way off. It just says no overhead lighting. Or you can just run off of the candlelight, whatever works best for you. So you want to dim the light, no overhead lighting. You can use obsidian mirror or just a regular mirror. Place a single candle behind you. So not in front of you, just behind you. You just want a little bit of flicker. That's all. Just low enough that it doesn't reflect in the mirror. So then you want to sit in front of that mirror, breathe slowly and deeply, and you want to set this intention. You say this in your mind. I am ready to meet my divine self. So then you would gaze into the mirror, not at your reflection, but into the depth. Let your vision blur. Don't chase images, just observe and be still. And when your face, this is the final one, but when your face begins to shift or fade, stay calm, speak softly, and ask yourself, who am I becoming? Or show me the truth of who I am. And if you want, you can actually record the audio experience right after you capture your impressions. Sometimes the real messages come in after the ritual ends. It's because it's like an unlocking. All right, practice number 2 is the future self meditation and a letter technique. So this is one of the most powerful daily or weekly practices to collapse timelines and integrate your higher destiny. So what you want to do is you want to sit in silence or play soft ambient music. 432 hertz or theta wave tracks are ideal. You want to close your eyes and visualize yourself 5 to 10 years in the future. This version of you has made it. Healed, powerful, wise, fulfilled. See the way they stand. Feel their energy. Ask them these 3 questions. So you want to ask them, what was the hardest thing you had to overcome? Another one, what do you need me to know right now? And the final one, what decision changed everything for you? Now, you want to write a letter to yourself, but write as your future self. Let them speak through your pen. You'll be shocked at what follows, or what flows out, rather. This isn't imagination. It's memory coming back online. One thing you want to remember when you're doing this, you're not searching for, oh, who exactly did I end up with? Or how many kids did I have? Or what kind of house did I eventually end up buying? Or what state did I move to? You can ask that, sure. But that's not the goal. That's not the purpose of this. You're trying to embody the vibration of your higher self. You want to be the person, you want to be the man or the woman that makes all the right decisions for you. Okay? It's not to say that your decisions are wrong or anything, but if you're trying to set yourself on a path and you want to figure out how you can kind of advance that path a little bit faster so you don't have to wait until you're 75 years old to be the wisest version of yourself, you can do that now. And this is a practice. And you can implement that on a daily basis for anything. You're just trying to understand the mindset of this higher self, right? This angel version of you, this guardian angel version of you. So writing a letter to yourself as your higher self. That's awesome. And you can come up with any questions you want. You can come up with, 10, 20, 30 questions. These are the questions that Typically, I'll say at the end of a past life regression, I'll say, all right, write some questions for your higher self. That's this part. So you can skip right to it. Just get into a meditation, turn on 432, visualize yourself 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future, and just encompass that energy. You are that person temporarily while you're writing this message, and then the messages are going to come through. You're not saying, this is the thing. It's all about training your mind, okay? So whenever you're doing this, you want to literally embody that, right? Like, you're not like, oh, what would my higher self say? No. What does my higher self say? Not what would it, because you are it. You're temporarily encompassing your higher self. In that moment, that is who you are. Pretty powerful, but let's see. Let's keep on going. The next one, the third practice that we're going to get to is the invocation mantra, the I am alignment. So this is an energetic tuning practice that you can use anytime, especially in the morning, before sleep, or during meditation. So you would stand or sit with your spine aligned. Don't necessarily have to be a lotus position, because I don't even know how to do that myself. I'm not that stretchy. But you would stand or sit with your spine aligned. You would place one hand over your heart and the other over your solar plexus. So then you would breathe in deeply and repeat this slowly. I am the light of my soul. I am the fire of my future. I am the presence of my higher self here and now. I am. So you want to say it loud. You want to mean it. You want to repeat it until you feel the shift in your field. This isn't just an affirmation. It's a frequency alignment. Easy rituals. Very easy rituals. Anybody can do this. And it doesn't even take that long. 5-10 minutes, if that. And the final ritual practice that we can go into is the mirror conversation. Raw and real. So this one is intense, but it's transformative, it says. So you would want to stand in front of a mirror, look directly into your own eyes. Oh boy. Not on entheogens, unless you really want to go down that rabbit hole. But so stand in front of a mirror, look directly into your own eyes, and ask this out loud. What have I been hiding from? What part of me is ready to be seen? And am I ready to become who I truly am? Let the tears come. Let the rage come. Let the truth come. And when it does, say this: I see you, I love you, and I remember you. And repeat it until it feels true, until your whole being vibrates with remembrance. So those are just a couple of practices that you can work on yourself if you're trying to embody the higher self, the holy guardian angel aspect of you that is you in full. It's just you've just kind of created an aspect of that, and that's who you are. But you're trying to get back to the real you, right? So the world will always try to sell you versions of yourself that are smaller, safer, and easier to control. But your higher self, your future self, is calling you from beyond all of that, not to add more to you, but to strip away everything that's not you. So go meet them, write to them, pray to them, and when you're ready, become them. And so, yeah, that's going to be it for today. The one out there, you didn't just come here to listen to a podcast. This is extra. This is beyond. This is speaking to your soul. So you just sat through a ritual disguised as a conversation. You've got the tools, you got the codes, and if you made it this far, it means you're ready to stop outsourcing your power, ready to meet the version of you that already holds the answers. But just remember this. You are not becoming something new. You are remembering what you've always been. All right, the one, it is time for that tarot reading. And I just got done shuffling. It is a one-man show, so it's a little bit harder to do today, but we got it. That card is the Ace of Swords, as you can see right here if you're watching on Patreon or YouTube. So the Ace of Swords, a gift of clarity and new ideas is being presented to you. Be open to receiving this gift from the divine. The Ace of Swords brings you the gift of a new beginning by offering clear insight and new ideas. On this card, we see the hand of the divine emerging from a cloud, offering a single sword with a crown on top of it. The crown is symbolic of consciousness and clear ideas that have been received and are ready to be put into action, as shown by the ferns that dangle from it, resembling a wreath of victory. Beneath the hand and sword is a mountain range representing the ability of the higher self. Come on now. How did higher self make its way into this conversation? So representing the ability of the higher self to see far above the ground to receive this divine insight. Damn, I wish Sean was here to see this part. My God. But that's okay. Y'all are here. This was meant to be. I really believe that. So the spiritual message behind it, it says, heed the call to deepen your spiritual practice or develop your psychic and intuitive gifts. If you feel struck by inspiration in your personal or spiritual life, take action and don't worry about the details. You will be guided toward the next steps. But to open the portal to that guidance, you must be bold and initiate action. You may notice improved communication and clarity with friends and people you spend the most time with. So the upright meanings are clarity and new ideas. Numerology would be 1. It's the ace. New beginnings for the individual. Wow. See, it's been a while since I pulled a card for the show. Normally Sean takes over that job, but I guess I still got it. I guess I'm still connected. We're all connected. You just gotta, don't question it and try and, attune to the highest vibration that you possibly can on a regular basis. So yeah, this was it. This is all we got as far as, kind of just coming in touch with the higher self. And I was really inspired to do an episode like this because of the psychedelic trip that I went on just a couple of days ago. It was, it's been a while. That was my first psychedelic trip since October. And normally I'm somebody that's like ready to go at least once a month, once every other month or something like that. You don't want to do it every day. It's too much at that point because you need time to, sit with it. And if you're doing it every day, I don't know if that's enough time to be able to sit with what you learned. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to grasp all of it. And I think that there was a sufficient amount of time to where I was able to grasp it. And that's what made this trip so amazing. The trip within a trip, because I was on a trip and then I tripped. But yeah, it was such an amazing time. And so I was like, it seems in that moment, I was like, it kind of seems like my higher self, not to say that I'm the only thing that exists, but that divine thing within you, we all have that. That's what we always say. It's always the namaste, right? Like the divine me and the divine in me bows to the divine in you, right? Like that's some pretty powerful shit if you really think about it. It's like, yeah, I know you got the ego going on right here, but the divine part of me is looking at the divine part of you and saying, I see you. It's just a respect kind of thing because we all got it. And that's why you shouldn't be, disrespecting anybody. That's why you should try your best to try and get along with everybody because everybody has that in them. But how are you going to know that you can get along with everybody and that you can kind of not let the world affect you in every single possible way, just looking for your reaction, if you're not doing your shadow work, if you're not doing, some kind of one of these, it's called rituals. I know some people get a little weird about that, but they're just practices. That's all. It's just practices that you can do. You gotta do the work. And once you fully sink yourself into doing the work on a regular basis, man, amazing things happen. That's what he was saying. Synchronicities start happening out the wazoo. And you know this. Everybody who's listening to this show, we're on, I don't know, episode 200 something by now. Like synchronicities are always popping up. Maybe just by releasing this episode today, you felt something synchronicity wise. I don't know what it is, but usually we get a lot of listeners that say that. So yeah, that's all we got for today. Like I said earlier, we're not going to get into a meditation today. We're going to get into that on Wonder Wednesday. So we will see y'all there. But yeah, if you would give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok, also on YouTube, go subscribe, hit the bell. We're posting over there twice a week. We're posting on Patreon twice a week. Those shows are usually coming out a little bit earlier. Sorry, we're a little behind. I had this trip in Florida, but we're going to get everything caught up here much sooner now. So go check us out at patreon.com/Meta Mysteries Podcast. That link is down in the show notes below. We have our YouTube link, and I think that we have our Instagram and TikTok links. But yeah, you'll be able to see all of that. So yeah, we appreciate you guys following us on this journey. And until next time, if the higher self came here and it taught you anything, it's that you don't know what you don't know. So don't just get weird. Stay weird.
Voices drift on winds untamed. Words like spells that can't be named. Close your eyes and feel the sound. Journey where no bounds are found. Open doors inside your mind. Leave the ordinary far behind. Colors swirl and stars align. In the meta mysteries you'll find.